wake up every morning believing that something is missing, that if you just had that promotion, that relationship, that body, that amount of money in your account, then you'd finally feel complete. Then you'd finally be happy. But here's what nobody tells you. You're chasing a ghost, a beautiful, seductive ghost that disappears the moment you think you've caught it. Arthur Schopenhauer understood this brutal truth over a century ago. He looked at human nature without the rose-colored glasses, without the comforting lies we tell ourselves, and he saw something that most people spend their entire lives refusing to accept. Happiness, as we imagine it, doesn't exist. Not in the way you think, not in the permanent, fulfilling, complete way you've been promised. What you call happiness is just a brief pause between desires, a momentary relief from suffering that your mind immediately replaces with a new craving, a new emptiness, a new dissatisfaction. And the worst part, you know this is true. Deep down, in that place you don't like to look, you've already experienced it. Every achievement that was supposed to change everything but didn't. Every relationship that was supposed to complete you but left you feeling the same. Every purchase, every vacation, every milestone that promised fulfillment but delivered only temporary pleasure, followed by the return of that familiar void. So I'm asking you now, what if everything you've been taught about happiness is a lie? What if the very pursuit of it is the problem? What if your entire life has been built around chasing something that was designed to stay just out of reach? This isn't pessimism. This is reality. And understanding it might be the most liberating thing that ever happens to you. Because once you stop believing in the illusion, you can finally stop running. You can finally breathe. You think you're in control. You believe your wants are yours, that your desires reflect who you are, what you value. But Schopenhauer saw through this comfortable delusion. He called it the will. This blind, insatiable force that lives inside you, driving every action, every choice, every moment of your existence. The will doesn't care about your happiness. It cares about perpetuation, about continuation. It uses you as a vehicle, pushing you from one desire to the next, never satisfied, never complete, because satisfaction would mean the end of striving. And the will cannot stop striving. It's not designed to. You are essentially a puppet, and the strings are made of desire. You think you're choosing what you want, but really, wanting is choosing you. Think about your last big achievement. Maybe it was a job you worked years to get. The moment you received the offer, you felt elated, complete, like you'd finally made it. But how long did that feeling last? A day? A week? And then, what happened? The mind adjusted. The achievement became normal, and slowly, quietly, a new hunger emerged, a new position to chase, a new level to reach, a new emptiness disguised as ambition. This is the mechanism Schopenhauer exposed. Every satisfied desire immediately gives birth to a new one. You are never done wanting. The happiness you felt wasn't happiness at all. It was just relief from the pain of wanting. And the moment that pain disappeared, your psyche created a new one to take its place. This is why people who win the lottery often report being no happier a year later. Why people in loveless marriages dream of freedom, then once divorced, feel just as trapped in their solitude. Why the college student dreams of graduation, the graduate dreams of a career, the professional dreams of retirement, and the retiree wonders what the point of it all was. Viktor Frankl, who survived the concentration camps and studied meaning in the darkest human conditions, observed something similar. He noted that suffering ceases to be suffering the moment it finds meaning. But Schopenhauer went deeper, went darker. He said suffering doesn't need a reason. It's the default state, the baseline. You suffer because you want, and you always want, because wanting is what keeps the organism alive, striving, reproducing, continuing. Look at your own patterns. Really look. How many times have you thought that getting something specific would change everything? The new car, the new apartment, the new relationship, the new body. And how many times did you get it? Feel briefly satisfied, then find yourself back in the same psychological space you were before. Same worries, same dissatisfaction, just with different details. The modern world has weaponized this truth. Advertisers know you're perpetually dissatisfied. They know you're always seeking the next thing that will finally make you feel complete. So they sell you products, experiences, lifestyles, all promising fulfillment, all delivering only temporary pleasure, followed by the return of desire. They're not selling you things. They're selling you relief from your own wanting. And the cruelest part is that the relief is designed to be temporary, so you come back for more. You buy the car. For 2 weeks, you feel amazing. Then it's just your car. Unremarkable. You enter the relationship. For a few months, you feel complete. Then they become familiar, and the void returns. And you wonder if maybe the problem is them. Maybe you need someone new, someone better, someone who can finally fill the hole inside you. You lose the weight. You feel incredible. Then your mind adjusts, and suddenly you're focused on something else your body should be, some other standard you're not meeting. The trap is believing that the next desire will be different, that this time, this achievement, this person, this experience will be the one that finally satisfies you. But it won't. It can't. Because the problem isn't external, it's internal. It's the nature of consciousness itself. You are a creature designed to want, and wanting by definition means not having. The moment you have, you cease to want that specific thing, but you don't cease to want. You just redirect the wanting elsewhere. Schopenhauer saw this as the fundamental tragedy of existence. We are born into a condition of perpetual striving with no possibility of lasting satisfaction. Brief moments of pleasure? Yes. But these moments are nothing more than the absence of pain, the temporary relief from want. And between these moments, either suffering or boredom, either the pain of unfulfilled desire or the emptiness of having nothing to desire. There is no escape within the system, only a pendulum swing between two forms of dissatisfaction. Here's what Schopenhauer understood that most people refuse to face. Suffering isn't a bug in the system, it's the system itself. Your entire psychological architecture is built on a foundation of lack, of incompleteness, of perpetual dissatisfaction. And this isn't an accident, it's design. Brilliant, ruthless design. From an evolutionary perspective, contentment is dangerous. An organism that feels complete stops striving. It stops seeking food, reproduction, safety. It becomes complacent, and complacent organisms get eaten. They starve. They fail to pass on their genes. So nature designed you to never feel complete, to always feel like something is missing, to always be reaching for the next thing. Your ancestors who felt satisfied didn't survive long enough to become your ancestors. The ones who passed on their DNA were the anxious ones, the hungry ones, the perpetually dissatisfied ones. But here's where it gets darker. Even when you get what you want, the satisfaction is fleeting because your nervous system is designed to habituate. What once excited you becomes normal. What once fulfilled you becomes baseline. This is called hedonic adaptation, and it's why lottery winners return to their baseline happiness levels within months. Why people in luxurious circumstances find new things to complain about. Why no external achievement ever produces lasting contentment. Your brain literally cannot maintain a state of elevated satisfaction. It's not built for that. Schopenhauer divided human suffering into 3 categories, and understanding these categories is like having a map of hell. First, there's the suffering of want, the pain of desire, of craving, of lacking what you think you need. This is the most obvious form. You don't have the money, the partner, the status, the body, and this absence gnaws at you constantly. It colors every experience. You're at a beautiful place, but you're thinking about what you don't have. You're with people you care about, but there's this background hum of insufficiency. Second, there's the suffering of attainment. And this is the one that breaks people because it reveals the futility of the entire game. You get what you wanted, and instead of lasting joy, you experience brief pleasure followed by emptiness. The goal that consumed your thoughts for months becomes mundane within weeks. The person you idealized reveals themselves to be human, flawed, incapable of completing you the way you imagined. The achievement you worked years for delivers a moment of satisfaction, then nothing. This is perhaps the most devastating form of suffering because it reveals that the problem wasn't that you didn't have what you wanted. The problem is the structure of wanting itself. Third, there's the suffering of loss. Everything you attain will be taken from you eventually. Relationships end, health declines, possessions break or become obsolete. People you love die. Your own body betrays you. Every attachment carries within it the seed of future pain. Schopenhauer saw this with brutal clarity. To love is to guarantee suffering. To own is to fear loss. To achieve is to create something that can be taken away. The more you have, the more you have to lose. The deeper your attachments, the more devastating their inevitable dissolution. Friedrich Nietzsche, who was deeply influenced by Schopenhauer before rejecting his pessimism, recognized this same truth but drew different conclusions. Nietzsche said that life is suffering, but we should embrace it, affirm it, say yes to it. He developed the concept of amor fati, love of fate. The idea that we should embrace everything that happens, including suffering, including loss, because it's all part of the same existence we've been given. Schopenhauer, on the other hand, looked at the same reality and concluded that the most rational response is to minimize desire, to withdraw, to reduce the will's grip on your consciousness, to say no to life's demands rather than yes. But most people don't do either. They don't embrace suffering with Nietzschean courage, and they don't minimize desire with Schopenhauerian wisdom. Instead, they remain trapped in the middle, suffering unconsciously, pursuing happiness desperately, never questioning whether the pursuit itself is the problem. They're like someone running on a treadmill, believing that if they just run faster, they'll finally reach the destination. But the treadmill is designed to keep you in place. The destination doesn't exist. Your mind is a desire-generating machine. It will never stop producing wants, fears, anxieties, dissatisfactions. And as long as you identify with these desires, as long as you believe that satisfying them will bring lasting peace, you remain enslaved. The architecture of suffering isn't something happening to you. It's what you are. Your very structure as a conscious being is oriented toward dissatisfaction. Your brain releases dopamine in anticipation of reward, not in the experience of it, which means the pursuit feels better than the attainment. You're designed to chase, not to catch. Think about how this plays out in relationships. You meet someone. The early stages are intoxicating. You can't stop thinking about them. Every text is exciting. Every date is meaningful. But what are you actually experiencing? The pleasure of anticipation, the thrill of possibility, the dopamine hit of uncertainty resolving into positive outcomes. Then you're together. The uncertainty disappears. The anticipation fades. And what remains? A person. Just a person. And your mind, trained to seek the next hit of anticipation, starts to wonder if maybe there's someone else out there who could recreate that initial feeling. This is why people serial date. Why they leave relationships that are perfectly functional in search of that initial spark. They don't understand that the spark isn't about the other person. It's about the neurological response to novelty and uncertainty, and it fades, always, with everyone. The architecture of your mind guarantees it. Let me tell you something that successful people rarely admit publicly, but will confess in private moments of vulnerability. The moment they reach the peak, the moment they achieve the goal that defined years of their life, they feel nothing. Or worse, they feel emptiness, a hollowness that whispers, "Is this it?" And they look around at everything they've built, everything they've sacrificed for, and they realize the promised fulfillment never arrived. Schopenhauer called this the vanity of existence. You build your entire identity around reaching a certain point. You sacrifice relationships, health, time, present moment enjoyment, all in service of this future moment when you'll finally have made it, when you'll finally be someone. when life will finally feel like it's supposed to feel. And then you arrive. And the moment is just a moment, brief, fleeting, incapable of sustaining the weight of meaning you placed on it. The arrival cannot possibly match the anticipation, because anticipation has been years in the making, while arrival lasts seconds. This is because achievement is always about the future. It's about becoming someone you're not yet, reaching somewhere you haven't reached. Your entire motivational structure is built on dissatisfaction with the present, on the belief that the present is insufficient, incomplete, wrong, inadequate. And this serves you in the pursuit. It drives you forward. It gives you energy. But once you achieve the goal, the present shifts. What was once the glorious future becomes the mundane now. And your mind, trained to find insufficiency, immediately locates a new target, a new inadequacy, a new future that will supposedly be better than this present. The CEO wants to be richer than his competitor. The actor wants more prestigious roles. The athlete wants another championship. The writer wants more recognition. There is no finish line. There is no point where you get to stop and say, "I've made it. I'm done. I can rest now." Because the mechanism that drove you to achievement in the first place doesn't turn off. It just recalibrates. It finds a new mountain to climb, a new standard to meet, a new way in which you're still not enough. If you've been chasing goals, believing they would finally make you happy, subscribe to this channel. Because what comes next will change how you see everything you've been taught about success and fulfillment. This is not just philosophy. This is your life. And understanding this might save you decades of unnecessary suffering. You've probably met people who have everything: the career, the money, the family, the health, the status, the freedom, and yet they're miserable. Or at best, they're neutral. Not suffering, obviously, but not fulfilled either. Just existing, going through motions, maintaining what they've built while secretly wondering why none of it feels like they thought it would. Why the achievement that was supposed to validate their existence feels hollow. Why having it all still feels like having nothing. Schopenhauer would say this is inevitable because happiness, as commonly conceived, is the illusion that satisfaction is possible, that there exists some combination of external circumstances that will produce lasting contentment. But this is like believing you can quench thirst permanently. You can drink water and the thirst disappears. But it returns, always. Because thirst is not a problem to be solved. It's a feature of being alive. A signal that the organism requires something to continue functioning. The same is true for psychological thirst. For the sense that something is missing, you can temporarily satisfy it through achievement, pleasure, novelty, distraction. But it returns. And the tragedy is that most people spend their entire lives believing the next achievement will be different. That this time, finally, they'll reach the point where striving can stop, where they can just be, where contentment becomes sustainable. But that point doesn't exist, not through achievement, not through accumulation, not through external validation. Look at the lives of people who achieved extraordinary success. Rock stars who had everything and still overdosed. Actors who reached the pinnacle of fame and took their own lives. CEOs who built empires and reported feeling empty. These aren't failures. These are people who won the game and discovered there was no prize. They did everything right according to society's metrics, and they still ended up facing the same existential emptiness that everyone faces. Because the emptiness isn't about circumstances, it's about the structure of consciousness. But here's the truth that will set you free if you can accept it. The striving will never stop. Not through achievement, not through accumulation, not through optimization. The only way to stop suffering the insufficiency of the present is to stop believing that the future holds something the present doesn't. To stop waiting for life to begin and recognize that this, right now, in all its imperfection and inadequacy, is all there is. This is not the preparation phase. This is not the journey before the destination. This is the destination. And it's constantly moving. Every moment is both the arrival and the departure. Schopenhauer found this realization devastating. He saw it as proof that existence itself is fundamentally flawed, that we are born into a condition of perpetual dissatisfaction, briefly relieved by pleasure, but always returning to suffering or boredom. His conclusion was that the wise person minimizes desire, seeks tranquility, and recognizes that non-existence would have been preferable to existence. He was, by all accounts, not a happy man, but he was a clear-sighted one. But you don't have to go that far into pessimism. You don't have to conclude that existence is a mistake. You can take the insight without accepting his conclusion. You can recognize that achievement will never produce lasting happiness and still find value in the process. You can see through the illusion without becoming paralyzed by despair. But first, you have to stop lying to yourself about what success will give you. You have to stop believing that you're different, that your achievement will be the one that finally delivers on the promise. It won't. Turn on your phone, open any social media platform. What do you see? Smiling faces? Success stories? Perfect moments captured at perfect angles. Everyone is thriving, growing, living their best life, manifesting their dreams, vibrating at higher frequencies, attracting abundance. And there you are, in your normal existence with its normal dissatisfactions, feeling like you're failing because you're not constantly ecstatic. This is the modern perversion of the happiness illusion. Society has turned happiness into an obligation, into a performance, into something you owe the world. If you're not happy, it's your fault. You're not meditating enough, not manifesting enough, not being positive enough, not grateful enough. You need better habits, better thoughts, better energy, better boundaries, better self-care, better morning routines. You need to work on yourself, to optimize yourself, to become the version of yourself that would be happy. Schopenhauer would see this as the ultimate denial, the refusal to accept what is plainly true, that life contains suffering, that dissatisfaction is normal, that feeling incomplete is not a personal failing, but a feature of consciousness itself. The modern happiness cult does something insidious. It takes your natural, inevitable experience of dissatisfaction and turns it into evidence that you're doing something wrong, that you're broken, that you need fixing. But you're not doing something wrong. You're doing what every conscious being does. You're experiencing the gap between what is and what you think should be. You're feeling the pull of desire, the weight of time, the fear of mortality, the inadequacy of achievement, the transience of pleasure. These are not problems to be fixed through better mindset or morning routines. They are existential realities. They are what it means to be human. The self-help industry has become a multi-billion-dollar machine built on selling you the same lie in different packaging. That happiness is achievable through the right formula, the right steps, the right mindset, the right habits, that you are always just one book, one course, one practice away from the breakthrough that will finally change everything. But Schopenhauer saw through this centuries ago. Happiness as a permanent state is impossible. What you're being sold is temporary relief, repackaged as transformation. The high of hope, mistaken for the reality of change. Think about how this operates in your life. You feel dissatisfied, maybe anxious, maybe empty. You believe this is abnormal, problematic, something that needs to be fixed. So you seek a solution. You read a book about rewiring your brain. You take a course on manifesting. You adopt a meditation practice. You start journaling. You implement a gratitude ritual, and for a while, it works. You feel better, more hopeful, more in control, more like you're finally on the right path. But then the effect fades. The dissatisfaction returns, maybe in a new form, but it's the same essential feeling. The sense that something is missing, that you're not where you should be, that life isn't what it's supposed to be. And instead of recognizing this as inevitable, as the baseline of conscious existence, you blame yourself. You weren't consistent enough. You didn't believe hard enough. You let negative thoughts creep in. You need to try something else, something more advanced, something that goes deeper. This creates an endless cycle, not of growth, but of consumption, of perpetual seeking, of never arriving because the destination doesn't exist. And the tragedy is that this seeking prevents you from accepting what is, from finding peace, not through achievement or transformation, but through recognition. Recognition that this is how it is, that dissatisfaction is not evidence of failure, that the void inside you is not a hole to be filled, but a space to be accepted, that your inability to maintain constant happiness is not a personal deficiency, but a universal human condition. The positive psychology movement talks about gratitude, about focusing on what you have rather than what you lack. And there's value in that practice. Gratitude can shift perspective. It can create moments of appreciation, but it's still operating within the framework of the happiness illusion. It's still saying that the right mental approach will produce lasting contentment. That if you just focus on the right things, you'll finally feel the way you're supposed to feel. Schopenhauer would say, you're missing the point. The issue isn't your focus, it's your expectation. Your belief that contentment is the natural state you should be experiencing if only you thought correctly. What if it's not? What if the baseline is actually mild dissatisfaction, punctuated by moments of pleasure and periods of acute suffering? What if this is normal? What if everyone else is experiencing this too, but pretending otherwise because they've been told that admitting dissatisfaction means they're doing life wrong? What if accepting that reality is more liberating than spending your life trying to escape it? This isn't about giving up. It's not about being negative or cynical. It's about seeing clearly, about stopping the war with reality, about recognizing that your dissatisfaction doesn't mean something is wrong with your life. It means you're alive. It means you're conscious. It means you're human. And instead of treating this as a problem to be solved, what if you just acknowledged it? What if you stopped fighting it? What if you stopped believing that somewhere out there is a version of you who has it all figured out, who wakes up every day feeling fulfilled and purposeful and joyful? That version doesn't exist. Not for you. Not for anyone. The people who seem to have it together are either lying, performing, or too busy maintaining the performance to notice how exhausted they are. The happiness you see on social media is curated. The success stories you hear are edited. The gurus selling you enlightenment are just as lost as you are. They've just found a way to monetize the search. Erich Fromm, the psychoanalyst and social philosopher, talked about this societal pressure. He said we live in a culture that has made a commodity out of everything, including happiness. We've turned inner states into products to be acquired, optimized, performed. We've created an industry around the idea that you can purchase peace, that you can consume your way to contentment. But Schopenhauer understood what Fromm would later articulate. The system is designed to keep you dissatisfied because satisfied people don't consume. They don't strive. They don't participate in the machinery of perpetual growth that modern capitalism requires. So your dissatisfaction serves the system. Your feeling of inadequacy makes you a better consumer. Your belief that happiness is achievable keeps you engaged in the pursuit. And the moment you step back and say, "This is impossible, the promise is false, I've been chasing something that doesn't exist," you become useless to the system, and that terrifies it. That's why there's so much pressure to stay positive, to keep trying, to never give up on the dream. Because the dream is what keeps you running on the treadmill. When the illusion shatters, most people panic. They feel like they've lost something essential: purpose, direction, hope, meaning. If happiness isn't the goal, then what is? If striving doesn't lead anywhere, why do anything? If the future won't be better than the present, what's the point of effort? If achievement doesn't deliver fulfillment, why sacrifice? These questions feel like falling, like the ground has disappeared and there's nothing to grab onto. But Schopenhauer, despite his pessimism, despite his dark view of existence, pointed towards something profound. When you stop believing in the happiness illusion, when you recognize the futility of perpetual desire, you don't fall into nihilistic despair. Instead, You create space for a different kind of existence. Not one based on becoming, but on being. Not one oriented toward the future, but grounded in the present. Not one seeking fulfillment, but accepting what is. This is where Schopenhauer's philosophy intersects with Eastern wisdom, particularly Buddhism and Hinduism, which heavily influenced his thinking. The recognition that desire causes suffering is central to Buddhist teaching. The second noble truth: suffering arises from attachment, from wanting things to be different than they are, from clinging to pleasure and pushing away pain. The path to liberation, according to Buddhist philosophy, is not through satisfying desire, but through transcending it, through seeing it clearly, understanding its mechanism, and loosening its grip on your consciousness. Schopenhauer was one of the first Western philosophers to take Eastern philosophy seriously. He kept a copy of the Upanishads on his bedside table. He saw in these ancient texts the same truth he'd arrived at through his own philosophical investigation, that the individual self, with all its wants and fears, is an illusion, that beneath the surface of separate selves is a unified will, a blind force expressing itself through all living things. And that liberation comes from seeing through the illusion of separateness, from recognizing that the striving self is not who you fundamentally are. When you stop chasing happiness, you stop being enslaved by every fleeting emotion. You stop interpreting dissatisfaction as evidence that something is wrong. You stop believing that you need to fix yourself, change your circumstances, or achieve something more before you can be okay. You recognize that the feeling of incompleteness is not a problem to be solved, but a condition to be accepted. And this acceptance is not resignation, it's not giving up, it's clarity, it's seeing the game for what it is and choosing not to play. This acceptance transforms your relationship to everything. When you no longer need to be happy, you're no longer controlled by the fear of unhappiness. Difficult emotions arise, and you can simply observe them without the added layer of suffering that comes from believing they shouldn't be there. Disappointments occur, and you can experience them fully without the additional pain of thinking you did something wrong. Desires emerge, and you can acknowledge them without being consumed by the urgency to satisfy them immediately. When you no longer need the future to validate the present, you're no longer at war with what is. You're no longer spending your current moments mentally living in some imagined future where things are finally good enough. You can actually be here. Notice what's actually happening. Experience life directly instead of through the filter of constant comparison to how it should be. When you no longer need achievement to feel worthy, you're free to act without attachment to outcome. You can work on projects because the process interests you, not because success will finally prove you're valuable. You can pursue goals without tying your entire sense of self to whether you reach them. You can fail without being destroyed because your identity isn't dependent on outcomes. This is paradoxical, but it's true. The moment you stop needing success is the moment you become capable of real achievement. Because you're no longer acting from desperation. You're no longer trying to fill a void. You're simply engaging with what's in front of you. Schopenhauer himself found refuge in art, in contemplation, in aesthetic experience. He believed that in moments of pure aesthetic appreciation, when you lose yourself in music, in nature, in beauty, the will is temporarily suspended. The self with its endless desires briefly disappears. There's just the experience. No subject wanting, no object being wanted, just presence, pure perception without the distortion of desire. And in those moments, something like peace becomes possible. Not because you achieve something, but because you stopped needing to. This is the reality check that Schopenhauer offers. Happiness, as you've imagined it, doesn't exist, but peace might. Not the peace of having everything, but the peace of needing nothing. Not the peace of perpetual joy, but the peace of accepting the full spectrum of human experience. Joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain, satisfaction and desire, not as problems to be fixed, but as movements in consciousness, like weather passing through an open sky. Most people will never accept this. They'll keep chasing. Keep believing that the next thing will be different. Keep constructing elaborate stories about why this time will be the time everything finally clicks into place. They'll die having spent their entire lives in pursuit of something that was always already impossible. And that's a tragedy. Not because life is inherently tragic, but because they missed it. They missed the life that was happening while they were waiting for the real life to begin. But you don't have to be most people. You can stop running. You can look directly at the mechanism of desire and see it for what it is: a biological program, an evolutionary adaptation, a feature of consciousness that served survival but now creates unnecessary suffering because you believe in it, because you identify with it, because you think your desires are you, when actually they're just phenomena arising in consciousness. They're not you. They're experiences you're having. You are the awareness watching the desires arise and pass. You are the space in which wanting occurs, not the wanting itself. And when you recognize this, when you stop being possessed by the will and start observing it, something shifts. Not happiness, but freedom. Real freedom. The freedom to choose what you pursue, not because you need it to be complete, but because the pursuit itself has value. The freedom to fail without being destroyed because your worth isn't contingent on success. The freedom to succeed without being disappointed because you never believed success would deliver salvation. The freedom to be human without needing to be superhuman. This is what disillusionment offers, not depression, not apathy, but a kind of lucid engagement with life that isn't dependent on outcomes. You can still have preferences. You can still pursue goals. You can still experience pleasure when things go well. But you're no longer imprisoned by the belief that your well-being depends on getting what you want. You're no longer fragile. You're no longer at the mercy of circumstances, because you've seen through the central lie that happiness is something to be achieved rather than something to be released. Schopenhauer's reality check is brutal, but it's also liberating, because once you stop believing in the illusion, you stop being its victim. Once you recognize that the game is rigged, that the promised fulfillment will never arrive through external means, you can stop playing the game. Or you can keep playing, but lightly, without stakes, without the existential weight of believing your worth depends on winning. You can live without the burden of the happiness imperative. You can be ordinary, dissatisfied, human, and that's enough. So here you are, at the end of this conversation. And I know what you might be feeling right now. Maybe emptiness, maybe relief, maybe anger at having spent years, maybe decades, chasing something that never existed in the first place. Maybe grief for all the present moments you missed while you were mentally living in some imagined future. But let me tell you what this really means, what this understanding actually offers you. It means you can stop. Stop performing happiness for an audience that isn't even watching. Stop pretending you're close to figuring it all out. Stop believing that you're failing because you haven't achieved permanent contentment. Stop waiting for life to finally feel like you think it's supposed to feel. You're not failing. You're human. And being human means living with desire, with dissatisfaction, with the constant pull between what is and what could be, between acceptance and striving, between peace and ambition. But it also means you have a choice. You can keep running, keep chasing, keep believing that the next achievement will be different, that this relationship will be the one, that this amount of money will be enough, that this version of your body will finally make you feel okay. Or you can stop. Not stop living, not stop acting, not stop caring, but stop waiting for life to finally begin. Stop postponing peace until conditions are perfect. The conditions will never be perfect. The hunger will never completely disappear. The will, as Schopenhauer called it, will keep generating new desires, new dissatisfactions, new reasons why this moment isn't enough until the day you die. This is not a curse. This is not evidence that you're broken. This is just what consciousness does. It compares, it wants, it reaches, and fighting this, resisting it, trying to transcend it through more striving, only creates more suffering. Like struggling in quicksand, the more you fight, the deeper you sink. But accepting it, seeing it clearly, understanding that this is the condition of being alive, not a personal failing, that changes everything. Not because your circumstances change, but because you stop needing them to. Not because you become happy, but because you stop requiring happiness as proof that you're living correctly. You stop measuring your life against an impossible standard. You stop believing that other people have figured out some secret you're missing. You recognize that everyone is playing the same game, experiencing the same gap between expectation and reality, just talking about it less. If this message resonated with you, if something in you recognized the truth in these words, even though they're uncomfortable, even though they contradict everything you've been taught, then you're ready. Ready to stop lying to yourself, ready to stop chasing ghosts, ready to live without the burden of the happiness imperative, ready to be ordinary in a world that demands extraordinary. Subscribe to this channel if you want more of this. More reality checks, more uncomfortable truths, more conversations that pull back the curtain on the stories we tell ourselves to avoid facing what is. This isn't content for everyone. This isn't feel-good material. This is for people who are tired of pretending, tired of performing, tired of believing that if they just try harder, think more positively, manifest more effectively, that everything will finally click into place. This is for people ready to see clearly, even when clarity hurts. Now tell me in the comments, what illusion are you ready to let go of? What have you been chasing that you're finally willing to stop pursuing? What story about how life is supposed to be are you ready to release? Write it down, make it real, make it concrete. Let's see who here has the courage to stop running. Who has the strength to stand still and look at what is without flinching? And remember this, the illusion of happiness kept you safe. It gave you purpose, direction, something to strive for. It made the present bearable by promising a better future. Letting it go means entering uncertain territory. It means living without the comforting promise that everything will finally be okay. Without the narrative of progress, without the belief that you're building towards something. But it also means freedom, real freedom. Not the freedom to have whatever you want, but the freedom to not need it. Not the freedom from difficulty, but the freedom to not require ease. Not the freedom from desire, but the freedom to not be controlled by it. The freedom to be here now in this imperfect, insufficient, ordinary moment, without needing it to be anything other than what it is. This is the life, right here, this moment. Not the one you're planning for, not the one you're remembering, not the one you're working toward. This one. And it's enough. Not because it's perfect, not because it's what you wanted, but because it's real. And reality, when you stop fighting it, when you stop comparing it to some imagined alternative, has a strange way of becoming bearable. Sometimes even beautiful. Not because it changed, but because you stopped demanding that it be different. Welcome to the other side of the illusion. It's lonelier here, quieter, less hopeful in the conventional sense, but it's also real. And real is what you've been missing while you were busy chasing fantasies. Real is where life happens. Real is where peace becomes possible, not as an achievement, but as a recognition. The recognition that you were always already whole, always already enough, always already here. You just couldn't see it because you were too busy looking elsewhere, looking ahead, looking for something that was never lost in the first place.